What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I am back home now. So I was in Colombia. If you guys didn't know, I was in Colombia for the last 3 months. And now I want to take a look at a clip, and they're going to be talking about what happened in Indiana. So if you guys weren't paying attention, on Tuesday, there was an election, a primary election, and we saw 5 state senators lose their position to Trump-backed candidates. Okay, so Trump basically backed these candidates and they beat the incumbents. Now, what's important about this is in Indiana, if you guys remember several months back, in Indiana, you had some senators go against redistricting. And these were Republican senators that went against redistricting. And at the time, President Trump was very upset that they voted against redistricting because we know what's going on right now with all these different states that are considering redistricting. We have some states that have already redistricted. And this was all started because President Trump wanted Texas to redistrict. And now we're seeing other states do the same thing. We're also seeing Democratic states redistrict as well, like California, like Virginia. And so because these senators did not want to redistrict, President Trump endorsed new candidates to run against these incumbents. And I mean, realistically, it worked. I mean, they won 5 seats. And so I'm going to show you this clip. This is Harry Enten talking about this whole situation. And then I want to talk about the ramifications of this. So this happened in Indiana, but what about the Republican candidates that are running all over the U.S.? Are they going to be seeking President Trump's endorsement? And if President Trump does endorse them, will that hurt them in a general election? So we're going to unpack all of this. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right over to this clip. We'll play it, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Here we go.
As Indiana goes, so goes the nation when it comes to Republican voters and Donald John Trump. He absolutely still has the juice. And when you're a Republican and you go against Trump, you get voted off the island. I always love Survivor. And in this particular case, what we saw in Indiana was you go, adios, amigos, goodbye, see you later. And to me, that is emblematic of what we see nationwide with Republicans. I think there's this myth that's going on right now that, oh, Trump is really losing support among Republicans. But compared to other midterm cycles, he's just as popular with Republicans as he has ever been at this point in midterm cycles. Right now, nationally, we're talking about an approval rating on average of 84%. In 2022, his popularity rating was 76%, actually lower, right, when he wasn't in the presidency. In 2018, the last time he was president, 85%. That 85 looks a whole heck of a lot like this 84% right here. The bottom line is this: Donald Trump still absolutely has juice with Republican voters. You saw it in Indiana, and I think that you'll see it down the line as well if any Republicans try and go against the President of the United States, who is still very much beloved by Republican voters nationwide.
Harry, you were also looking at turnout. What are you seeing in turnout? Why is this significant to this conversation?
Okay, why is it significant? Because we know that within the Republican Party, Trump has that extra strong core, that MAGA base, right? We're talking about approval ratings, depending on which poll you look at, 95, 97, 100% with MAGA Republicans. And here's the thing. They are incredibly juiced up compared to other Republicans. Because let's take a look here. Republicans who say it's more important to vote in 2026 than the usual midterm election. Look at this. 60% of MAGA identifying Republicans say that, compared to just 36% of non-MAGA. So what's going on in these primaries, right? It's not just that you have this core Republican base that really loves Donald Trump. The people who really love him, they're the ones who are absolutely juiced up to go out and vote. They would go over hot coals to vote in those primaries. And you saw that in Indiana, with a clear majority of those representatives who went against Trump on redistricting. Well, they're no longer going to have a job come the next session of that state legislature.
Then the question is, do Republicans think that party leaders should be following Trump, or other Republicans should be following Trump?
Yeah, okay. So you see this juiced up MAGA, right? You see right here that his support among Republicans is just as strong as it was going into the 2018 midterm cycle, right? But it's more than that. Republican voters want their party leaders to follow the president of the United States, because party leaders should follow the president's lead. You know, for Joe Biden at the same point in his first term, just 57% of Democrats said that party leaders should follow his lead. Look at this number for Donald Trump. It's 75%, significantly higher than it was for Joe Biden. So it's not just that Republicans really like Donald Trump. It's they want their leaders to follow Donald Trump. And when they don't, as I said at the beginning, you get voted off the island.
And so you see, Republican voters, they want their candidates to follow President Trump. Now, in the primary, that's one thing, okay? Because when you're running in a primary, you're running against another Republican. But in a general election, that's where it becomes problematic. Because yes, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, but you also have independents. And a lot of these independents we're seeing, and Harry Enten just did a video just a couple of days ago where he was talking about the independents, actually the independents that lean for Republicans. And what he found is that a large number of independents that lean for Republicans or leaned for President Trump no longer support President Trump. And so when we're looking at the independents, so let's just look, he talked about MAGA, how energized they are. So you have a solid base of MAGA that's energized. But then you have independents that are leaving. And independents, they're the ones that are going to decide what goes on in this midterm election, because we have some independents that decided the 2024 election. And so they voted for President Trump, but now some of those same voters don't want to vote for President Trump or don't want to vote for Republicans anymore. And now they want to vote for either a Democrat or someone else. And so you have MAGA that's energized. And then on the Democratic side, you have people who are energized. And we see that in special elections. You see that Democrats are outperforming Republicans. And then you also have that independent bloc that looks like now they're leaning more for Democrats than they are for Republicans. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in a general election. But for President Trump, a few days ago, that was a victory. The fact that he was able to send that message out to Republicans. Look, either you're going to be with me. If you're not, then I'm going to get you primary. And so now you are going to have Republican candidates that are going to be looking for an endorsement from President Trump. But the only problem is they have to run on President Trump's record. And that is going to be hard, because when you look at the things that are going on right now with this war in Iran, with the economy, inflation, when you're looking at all of that, these candidates are now going to have to defend that. And it's going to be very hard. And we're seeing politicians right now fumbling this whole situation with gas prices, because President Trump put that out there. Gas prices are down. They're down to $2 a gallon or whatever he was saying. Now gas prices are up over $4 a gallon. And so we're looking at some of these same politicians in the past that were saying, look at gas prices down to $2 a gallon. Now that it's up over $4 a gallon, these same politicians they have to figure out what the game plan is. What are they going to say? Oh, it's a short term. It's a short term. It's going to end very soon. But it hasn't ended. And the longer we see gas prices elevated, the harder it's going to be for these same politicians to say, oh, this is just temporary. It'll go back down. It's going to take time for it to go back down. And also, because we're seeing gas prices increase, we're also seeing the cost of other items increase, like food and other essential needs. And so in a general election, these same Republicans that want President Trump's endorsement, they're really going to have to fight hard in order to win, because they're going to have to defend that record. But in the big scheme of things, I think this is going to hurt Republicans, because now you're going to have some Republicans that are going to be afraid to vote against President Trump. They're going to be looking for that endorsement, and that endorsement could be what keeps them from winning in a general election. So I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.